Hello and welcome to the second edition of the new and improved Sports Report. Before we go to our regularly scheduled emails, I'd like to read something to all you Eagles fans out there. This is being reported by theledger.com in Lakeland, Florida. Football hero turned restaurateur Freddie Mitchell is... Football hero, that must be a typo, is under investigation after what law enforcement sources say was a package of marijuana was delivered Thursday to his Lakeland business. Mitchell says the cops are looking at the wrong guy. This is a case of mistaken identity, Mitchell told the Ledger Monday. I guess there's no reason not to believe Mitchell when he says it was a case of mistaken identity. There's a lot of people who can be confused for the former receiver. It could have been the other guy who was drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. He'd only averaged 30 catches and 200 yards per season during his NFL career. It could have been the guy who was fired from his substitute teacher job after 1 week for hitting on the students. Or then again, it could have been the guy who was once quoted as saying, "I'd like to thank my hands for being so great." Anyway, Mitchell, who is 30 years old at this point, was briefly handcuffed Thursday, but not arrested. I really don't know what to say about a story like that. You have to hope for the best for Freddie Mitchell, and I'm sure he'll, or at least I hope he'll be able to get out of this with as little damage as possible. By the way, Michael Phelps, in case you're wondering, you can reach Freddie Mitchell at 1046 ML King Avenue in Lakeland, Florida. Anyway, as promised, we're now going to get to our regularly scheduled emails. And in response to our segment about the Phillies' offseason so far last week, Scott Frankel in Radnor is wondering, what do you think they, being the Phillies, should still try to do by opening day? Well, as I said last week, Scott, the Phillies addressed all their major concerns. They went out and they re-signed all those players who were arbitration eligible, and they replaced Pat Burrell in left field with what I think is an even better player. When it comes to what they still need to do, the only two things I can really think of is, one, maybe signing a right-handed bat to come off the bench. Right now, all of your pinch hitters are lefties, so I'd like to see a righty come in, possibly Nomar Garciaparra or even Moises Alou. And then the only other thing I could think of is to maybe add another left-handed pitcher to that bullpen. Losing J.C. Romero for the first 50 games of that season could hurt the team, obviously. And I'd maybe like to see them go out and get a lefty to fill that void. Other than that, there's nothing else I see them trying to do by opening day. There's certainly no glaring needs, and it should be a great season. I'd also like to take this opportunity to mention that you don't have to email the show with questions. You can just email your comments to me, and just simply to get something off your chest, something that you want the people out there to know you're thinking. I'd be glad to read it out loud and address it a little bit. That being said, we're going to go to our first comment, which is from Philip Brookman, also in Radnor. And he'd like to say, barring any long-lasting injuries, I think the Phillies can win 110 games and the World Series this season. We have more confidence, a great pitching staff, and one of the best offenses in the majors. I love that Howard is working on his fielding, and now Utley will hopefully be healthy the entire season. I know you can't win on paper, but I'm still excited for the season. Well, Phil, you and me both. I really am excited for this season, as I've said time and time again. The one thing I'd like to comment on is the first thing you say in your email, which I think is the most important, barring any long-lasting injuries. Last season, the Philadelphia Phillies were truly blessed to not have any major injuries. I know Chase Utley had that nagging hip injury, but it didn't keep him out of the lineup for any prolonged period of time. Really, their entire nucleus was intact for the entire 162 games and then the playoff run. And you can't put a price tag on that. When it comes to the marathon that is the baseball season, health is incredibly important, and the Phillies, as I said earlier, were blessed to not have any injuries. I'm sorry to say I can't expect that same kind of luck this season, but I certainly can hope for it. And if we get that kind of luck, then those injuries, that injury bug stays away, as I've said over and over again, we can expect to make another run for the World Series. Next, we're going to go to Dave Page in St. David's, Pennsylvania, who's wondering, what do you think about Lawrence Taylor and Sean Johnson's chances in the upcoming season of Dancing with the Stars? Well, Dave, to be completely honest with you, I just don't care. Next, we're going to go to Charlie Frankel in Radnor, Pennsylvania, who actually has 3 questions for me. First, do you think the Sixers are better or worse now that Brand is out? That's really a tough question. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that Elton Brand is a phenomenal player. You don't get to be 28 years old, and I know he had that Achilles injury, and then just forget how to play basketball. I mean, he is definitely can still be a productive player in the NBA, someone who will help a team rather than hurt a team. That being said, you can't argue with facts. You can't argue with the obvious fact that the Philadelphia 76ers, record-wise, energy-wise, tempo-wise, have been better without this guy. I mean, it might be because Elton Brand needs to have an outside shooter that he can rely on to really get his inside game going. Maybe it's because he didn't fit with the style of play the Sixers like to run, that up-tempo offense. But for whatever reason, the Sixers flat out are better with Elton Brand. That being said, I don't think you should give up on the guy. I mean, the Sixers have shown that they can win games in the regular season using that run-and-gun style of offense. However, come playoff time, you're going to need that inside presence. So rather than just dump Elton Brand and say I'd rather rely on these young, talented athletes rather than half-court basketball players, I'd like to see them work with Elton Brand, continue to let him progress with this new team, so that maybe in the long run he can be that half-court presence that they're going to need come playoff time if, at some point the Sixers can get to the point where they can challenge for an NBA championship. Second, Charlie is wondering my picks for each division and the wild cards in both the American League and the National League. The most important division, in my opinion, is the National League East, and there is no reason why I think the Philadelphia Phillies will not win that division. They were the division champs last year and the year before that, and in my opinion, they've gotten better. They have the experience. They've shown that when it comes to crunch time, they can still perform. I really think that they're going to win the NL East. I also think that the New York Mets, who are also in the NL East, will be the wild card in the National League. I know they've had their September struggles, but they have made some. I mean, you can't argue with the fact that they've made some very good additions to their ball club. Getting J.J. Putz, getting Francisco Rodriguez addresses a major concern they had. Their offense is obviously potent, and with this improved bullpen, they'll be a force to reckon with. I don't think they're going to win the East, but I do think they're good enough to win the wild card. In the NL Central, I expect the Cubs to come out of that division. They were phenomenal last year. They had the best regular season record in the National League, and they didn't lose anyone really that badly. They're still. I mean, I know that they've had their playoff struggles, but I still think they're good enough to win the Central. When it comes to the West, I really see the Arizona Diamondbacks walking away with that division. The only team that could possibly compete with them is the Los Angeles Dodgers. And unless they sign Manny Ramirez, I just don't see them having the complete team that the Diamondbacks do with all that young talent, Chris Young, Eric Burns, and with possibly the best 2 pitchers in the entire National League in Brandon Webb and Dan Herron. When it comes to the American League, I think the Yankees, unfortunately, will win the East. I know we've seen they've had the best division on paper for years, and we all know, of course, that having the best team on paper doesn't do a whole lot. But this year, they just have so much talent in that offense, so much talent on that pitching staff. I really don't see how they cannot win that division. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think the Boston Red Sox will be the wild card team. And the reason I say I can't believe I'm saying this is because the Tampa Bay Rays, I think, are going to miss out on the playoffs. It's really a shame that they have to play in that incredibly tough division, and I do not think last season was a fluke, but I just don't think that they're good enough to compete with the Yankees and the Red Sox. Not compete with the Yankees and the Red Sox, to overtake the Yankees and the Red Sox, especially after the Yankees have revamped their offense and the Red Sox are still such a strong team. In the Central, I know that they had some terrible struggles last season, but I expected Detroit Tigers to win that division. They still have that great offense that they went out and bought last season with Miguel Cabrera. The changes, however, are that they got much better defensively. They're putting Brandon Inge at third base, which would seriously help. Putting Carlos Guillen into the outfield where he's less of a liability. And more importantly, their bullpen is vastly improved. With Fernando Rodney, he'll be back for a full season, and Joel Zumaya will be back for a full season. Those two guys alone will really help that pitching staff and can really turn that team around and get back to their the potential they had that everyone thought they had last season. When it comes to the American League West, I really think that's the easiest division in all of baseball to predict. I don't see anyone challenging the Angels. They're just too good, and they're not going to take too far of a step back from what they had last season, and I don't think any other team in that division is going to take a significant step up. Even with the A's going out and getting Matt Holliday, I don't think they have the complete team to challenge the Los Angeles Angels. And now to Charlie's third email. We're actually going to go back to the Phillies, and he's wondering, do you think any current Phillies will be on the list of 104 players in the latest steroid report? Well, Charlie, my simple answer is I hope not. I know it's a little biased, me being a Phillies fan and all, but I really felt that last season part of the fun of it all was how lovable that team really was. You really felt like you were friends with each and every one of the players, and to learn that one of them was cheating to gain an unfair advantage, I mean, I don't want to say it would be devastating, but it would certainly put a dampen on how much fun that World Series run was. I don't think any of them were on the list. None of them seem like the kind of guys who are juiced up, whose power numbers have increased dramatically over the years. I mean, Ryan Howard to me just seems like a big guy. So I don't think any players were going to be on that list, and I certainly hope not. But, in this era, when it just seems like every day a new player is being named as someone on steroids, I hate to say it, nothing would surprise me at this point. And that's going to bring us to the first ever edition of Max's Minute, a minute at the end of each show where I just get a chance to rant. For this week, I want to talk about Brett Favre, who reportedly, and I say reportedly, has retired after 18 seasons. And the only thing I can say is, hopefully, this is it this time. Because to be completely honest, I cannot take another display like we had last season, where he got in front of the press conference and cried, which I got no problem with because, he deserved to have that press conference, to have that tearful goodbye. But then to watch him come back 2 months later and think about taking millions of dollars from the Jets, from the Packers rather, to stay off the field, only to then go play for the Jets. Brett, that was despicable. After all, I don't want to take away anything he did on the field because he was a great quarterback and he provided so many football fans with incredible amounts of excitement and entertainment. However, watching him with the theatrics and the drama, it took so much away from, the great player that was Brett Favre. And I hope that this time, this is really it, because I don't think any of his fans can take another display like we had last season. And I really hope that this is it, and there is no more comeback. And with that, I'm going to sign off. I'd like to thank you for joining us once again to the Sports Report. Remember, if you'd like to have some kind of impact on the show, just email sportsreport09@yahoo.com, and I look forward to hearing from you and to continue giving you this show once a week. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Southern Philadelphia, across from New Jersey, there lives a baseball team, they call them the Phillies.